Commander Olivia Reeves stood at the United Nations observation deck, watching the massive Xeraxian vessels hover above New York's skyline. Their crystalline structures caught the sunlight, creating rainbow patterns across the city below. 6 months had passed since humanity's first contact with the alien race, and today marked the signing of what was supposed to be a historic peace treaty. Beautiful, aren't they? General Marcus Harrison joined her at the window, his weathered face reflecting in the reinforced glass. Almost too beautiful. Olivia nodded, unable to shake the unease that had plagued her since the Xeraxians' arrival. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, she had spent countless hours studying their physiology, culture, and technology. Everything about them was perfect, methodical, precise, logical, perhaps too perfect. "Have you reviewed the latest atmospheric readings?" she asked, keeping her voice low despite their apparent privacy. Harrison's jaw tightened. Elevated levels of an unknown particle across every major city they're positioned above. Our scientists can't identify it, and the Xeraxians claim it's a natural byproduct of their ship's propulsion systems. They're lying. Olivia pulled up the holographic display from her wrist computer. "I've cross-referenced their propulsion specifications with the particle composition. There's no correlation. Whatever they're releasing into our atmosphere, it's deliberate." Before Harrison could respond, the building's emergency sirens blared to life. The observation deck's screens flickered with incoming emergency broadcasts from around the globe. The Xeraxian ships, once stationary and peaceful, had begun to pulse with an ominous red energy. "Get to the command center," Harrison shouted, already running for the exit. "This is not a drill." Olivia sprinted through the corridors of the UN building, her mind racing. The signs had been there. Subtle inconsistencies in the Xeraxians' behavior, unexplained energy signatures, and their insistence on positioning ships above Earth's most populous cities. The command center was chaos when she arrived. Screens showed simultaneous attacks across the globe. London, Tokyo, Moscow, Beijing, all under assault from Xeraxian energy weapons. The particles they'd been releasing served as targeting beacons, marking every major population center for destruction. "They're targeting military installations first," Colonel Raj Patel reported, his fingers flying across the tactical display. "Air defense systems are offline worldwide. Ground-to-air weapons are non-responsive." Harrison grabbed the emergency broadcast microphone. "All units, this is not a surrender. I repeat, this is not a surrender. Implement Protocol Omega. Ground forces, engage with conventional weapons. We fight." Olivia watched in horror as the first wave of Xeraxian ground troops emerged from their ships. They were nothing like the diplomatic delegation they'd met. These were warriors, their crystalline armor gleaming with the same red energy as their ships, wielding weapons that cut through tanks like paper. But something unexpected happened. Rather than retreat in the face of overwhelming technological superiority, humanity stood its ground. In New York, police officers formed defensive lines alongside military personnel. Construction workers used their equipment as makeshift barriers. Civilians helped evacuate the wounded while others joined the fight with whatever weapons they could find. They expected us to break, Olivia realized, watching the scenes unfold. They thought we'd run. Harrison nodded grimly. "They don't understand humans very well, do they?" In the hours that followed, Olivia worked frantically with other scientists in a secure underground facility. They analyzed combat footage, looking for weaknesses in Xeraxian technology. The aliens' superiority was clear, but their tactics revealed in crucial oversight. They had planned for a swift victory, not a prolonged engagement. Their armor, Olivia pointed to a slow-motion replay of a battlefield engagement. It's designed to deflect energy weapons more advanced than ours. But conventional bullets, especially at close range, can crack it. They never expected to face primitive projectile weapons in actual combat. Reports flooded in from around the world. Despite devastating losses, humanity refused to yield. In London, the Royal Marines held the Thames with outdated assault rifles and pure determination. In Tokyo, civilian volunteers used the subway system to outmaneuver alien patrols. Moscow's defenders turned the narrow city streets into death traps for Zeraxian assault vehicles. The aliens had expected a technologically inferior species to flee in terror. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that turned every city block, every building, and every subway tunnel into a battleground. An enemy that, despite being outgunned and outmatched, simply refused to accept defeat. As night fell over New York, Olivia stood with Harrison in the emergency command bunker, watching surveillance feeds of the ongoing battles. The Zeraxians had taken heavy losses, far more than they had anticipated. Their perfect formations were breaking down in the face of humanity's chaos and determination. "We've identified a pattern in their ship's energy signatures," she reported, showing Harrison the analysis. "They're not invincible. Their weapons require immense power, and they can't maintain continuous bombardment. They need to recharge." Harrison's eyes lit up with grim determination. "Then we have our window. Send word to all surviving commands. When their ships power down, we strike. Everything we have, everywhere at once. Show these bastards that humanity doesn't know how to quit." As orders went out across the globe, Olivia looked at the determined faces around her. The Zeraxians had made a fatal mistake. They had studied human technology, human weapons, and human tactics, but they had failed to understand human nature, the sheer, stubborn refusal to submit, even in the face of impossible odds. The first day of the invasion was ending, but the real war was just beginning, and humanity was about to teach the Zeraxians a lesson they would never forget. 3 months into the Zeraxian invasion, the sprawling tunnels beneath the ruins of Chicago had become both sanctuary and fortress. In a repurposed maintenance bay, now serving as the Resistance's primary research facility, Dr. James Foster hunched over his microscope, barely noticing the distant rumble of alien bombardment above. "This can't be right," he muttered, adjusting the lens. The Zeraxian tissue sample under his microscope was deteriorating rapidly, consumed by what appeared to be ordinary Earth bacteria. Lieutenant Diana Walsh, her dark hair streaked with gray despite being only 32, leaned against the makeshift lab bench. "Give me good news, Doc. We lost 3 people getting that sample." James straightened, rubbing his tired eyes. "Remember how the Zeraxians never removed their environmental suits during the diplomatic phase? We assumed it was cultural. It wasn't. Their immune systems have no defense against Earth's microorganisms." Diana's eyes widened. "Are you saying we can weaponize the common cold?" "Better." James pulled up his findings on a salvaged holographic display. "Their biology is particularly vulnerable to Pseudomonas fluorescens, a bacteria commonly found in soil. Exposure causes rapid cellular breakdown. It's like acid to them." The implications were staggering. While the Resistance had been fighting a losing battle with conventional weapons, Earth itself had been silently attacking the invaders all along. In another section of the underground complex, Commander Victor Torres coordinated with Resistance cells worldwide via quantum-encrypted channels, technology reverse-engineered from captured Zeraxian equipment. The global situation was grim but not hopeless. Sydney's underground had developed electromagnetic pulse devices that could temporarily disable alien shields. The remnants of the European Union forces had perfected guerrilla tactics using the ancient catacombs beneath their cities. Report from Moscow. His communications officer, Yuki Tanaka, announced. "They've successfully contaminated a Zeraxian water processing facility with local soil samples. Entire garrison is in chaos." Victor allowed himself a small smile. "Send the data to all cells. Priority on targeting their environmental control systems." The Resistance had learned to fight smart rather than directly. The Zeraxians' technological superiority meant nothing in the tight confines of subway tunnels and sewers. Their perfect battle formations fell apart in the labyrinthine streets of ancient cities. And now, Earth's microscopic defenders were joining the fight. In the medical bay, Dr. Amara Patel treated wounded Resistance fighters while gathering data on Zeraxian vulnerabilities. Every captured piece of alien technology, every tissue sample, every battle report added to their understanding. The invaders' weaknesses were becoming clearer: their reliance on technology, their psychological rigidity, and most importantly, their biological fragility. They're not adapted to Earth's biosphere, Amara explained during a strategy session. Every breath without their filters is dangerous to them. Every wound risks infection by organisms they have no defense against. They're fighting a war on two fronts, against us and against our planet's entire ecosystem. The resistance began incorporating this knowledge into their tactics. Strikes targeted environmental control systems rather than weapons. Captured alien facilities were contaminated with common soil bacteria. The Xeraxians found themselves fighting an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't predict, and couldn't defeat with superior firepower. Lieutenant Walsh led a raid on a Xeraxian command post, using handheld aerosol dispersers filled with a concentrated mixture of soil bacteria. The aliens' panic when their environmental systems failed was palpable. Their perfect discipline crumbled as microscopic invaders breached their defenses. They never considered this, did they? Diana remarked to James after the successful raid that our planet's primitive life forms would be their undoing. James shook his head, examining new data from the field. They saw our technology and dismissed us as inferior. They never realized that we've spent millions of years evolving alongside these bacteria. What's deadly to them is normal for us. The tide was turning, not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through the simple fact that Earth itself rejected the invaders. The Xeraxians found themselves facing an entire planet's worth of microscopic defenders, wielded with increasing precision by the very species they had dismissed as primitive. Victor received reports of Xeraxian forces abandoning forward positions, retreating to their ships where environmental controls could be better maintained. Their ground operations became hesitant, their troops terrified of suit breaches or filter failures. They're adapting, he warned during a command meeting, improving their environmental systems, developing new protocols. We need to strike before they find a countermeasure. The resistance began preparing for a major offensive. Using the Xeraxians' own tactical data, they identified critical vulnerabilities in the aliens' orbital support network. A plan took shape, bold, desperate, and quintessentially human in its audacity. As the resistance gathered its strength, Dr. Foster made another crucial discovery. The bacteria weren't just killing Xeraxian troops. They were evolving, becoming more efficient at breaking down alien biology. Earth's microscopic defenders were learning and adapting faster than the Xeraxians could respond. Nature always finds a way, Amara mused, reviewing the data. They thought they were invading a planet. Instead, they're learning why Earth's biosphere has survived everything the universe has thrown at it for billions of years. The stage was set for humanity's counterattack. The resistance had learned to fight on nature's terms, turning their world's ancient defenders into weapons the Xeraxians never saw coming. The invaders had expected to face primitive technology and fleeing masses. Instead, they found themselves fighting an entire planet's ecosystem, wielded by a species that refused to surrender. The war was about to enter its next phase, and Earth's smallest inhabitants would play a crucial role in humanity's greatest battle. Operation Thunderstrike began in the pre-dawn hours, when the resistance launched their boldest offensive yet. Commander Torres stood in the command center, watching holographic displays track movement across the globe. Everything hinged on perfect timing and humanity's greatest talent, adaptability. First wave launching, Lieutenant Walsh reported, her voice steady despite the stakes. Teams of engineers, retrofitted with salvaged Xeraxian tech, merged with human ingenuity, were ascending the massive tethers that connected the aliens' ground bases to their orbital platforms. The assault teams carried specialized equipment developed by Dr. Foster's team, biological payload devices designed to target the mothership's life support systems. Each unit contained a carefully cultivated mixture of Earth's most aggressive bacteria, enhanced through selective breeding. Team Alpha reaching first checkpoint, Yuki announced, monitoring the encrypted communications. No detection so far. Their arrogance is working in our favor. They never expected an attack from below. The plan exploited a fundamental weakness in Xeraxian thinking. The aliens had fortified against attacks from the ground and space, but had dismissed the possibility of humans scaling their own supply lines. The crystalline tethers, used to transport resources from Earth to their ships, became humanity's highway to the stars. In New Delhi, Rio de Janeiro, and Cairo, synchronized strikes drew Xeraxian forces into the streets. The aliens found themselves fighting in environments saturated with hostile microorganisms. Their advanced sensors, calibrated for energy weapons and explosives, failed to detect the invisible threat eating through their environmental suits. Dr. Patel coordinated from the medical bay, analyzing real-time data from the field. Their new filtration systems are failing faster than expected. The bacteria have evolved to target synthetic materials. They're not just attacking Xeraxian biology anymore. They're breaking down their technology. Above Moscow, the first team reached the orbital platform. Sergeant Nikolai Petrov, a former space station engineer, led his squad through maintenance ducts, modified to accommodate Xeraxian physiology. The alien standardized design philosophy, once a strength, now provided the resistance with predictable entry points. Beginning Phase 2, Nikolai whispered into his comm. His team planted Foster's devices near environmental control nodes. The weaponized bacteria would spread through the ship's air filtration system, turning the alien sealed environment into their prison. Commander Torres received confirmation from other teams, London, Beijing, Sydney, all reporting successful infiltration. The Xeraxians, masters of advanced technology, were about to face an enemy they couldn't fight with energy weapons or force fields. Multiple hull breaches detected in Xeraxian vessels, Yuki reported, excitement creeping into her voice. They're attempting emergency protocols, but the bacteria are spreading faster than they can contain it. The scenes unfolding on the monitoring stations were chaos. Xeraxian troops, perfect in their discipline and technology, found themselves fighting an invisible enemy that turned their own ships against them. Crystalline structures began to deteriorate as bacterial colonies attacked their molecular bonds. Lieutenant Walsh led the second wave, a direct assault on the weakened ground fortifications. They're pulling back to their ships, she reported, right into our trap. The more they concentrate their forces, the faster the contamination spreads. Dr. Foster monitored the biological readings with intense focus. The bacterial evolution is exceeding our models. They're not just surviving in the alien environment, they're thriving. Every Xeraxian attempt to sterilize their ships only creates stronger strains. In orbit, the massive mothership began showing signs of structural stress. The bacteria had evolved to consume the very materials the ships were built from, turning their mighty vessels into bacterial breeding grounds. Attempts to prevent the spread only accelerated the process as emergency systems circulated the contaminated air throughout the fleet. Commander Torres watched as decades of theoretical tactical training paid off. The Xeraxians' rigid command structure, unable to adapt to rapidly changing circumstances, began to break down. Their attempts to maintain perfect formation and protocol only made them more vulnerable. They're starting to realize, Amara observed, watching the patterns of Xeraxian retreat. Earth isn't just a planet. It's a living weapon that's been testing and improving its defenses for billions of years. The orbital platforms, one by one, began falling into emergency shutdown. The Xeraxian fleet, designed to withstand the most powerful energy weapons, was being destroyed from within by microscopic life forms they had dismissed as irrelevant. But victory wasn't assured yet. As their ships failed, the Xeraxians launched a desperate counterattack. The resistance had anticipated this. The invaders' psychological profiles suggested they would respond to defeat with overwhelming force. All teams, initiate final phase, Torres commanded. Let's show them why you should never back humans into a corner. The next hours would determine Earth's fate. Humanity had launched its boldest gambit, turning the very essence of their world into a weapon. Now they needed to survive the Xeraxians' fury long enough for nature to finish what they had started. The war's climax approached, and with it, a lesson about the true meaning of adaptability and survival. The Xeraxians were about to learn why Earth's life forms had endured countless extinction events, and why humanity, born of this unforgiving crucible, refused to accept defeat. The Xeraxian mothership's corridors glowed with an eerie red light as Lieutenant Walsh led her infiltration team through its deteriorating passages. Thanks to Dr. Foster's bacterial agents, the once pristine crystalline walls were clouded and brittle. Their suits, modified with captured Xeraxian tech, protected them from the increasingly toxic environment. "Life signs ahead," whispered technical specialist Raj. "Different from the warrior caste we've encountered." They found themselves in what appeared to be a research sector. Inside sealed chambers, Xeraxian scientists worked frantically, their movements lacking the military precision of their warriors. But what caught Diana's attention was their behavior. They weren't trying to fight the bacterial invasion, but studying it with what seemed like fascination. "Commander Torres," she radioed back to Earth. "You need to see this." She activated her helmet camera, transmitting images of Xeraxian research displays. The aliens weren't just studying Earth's bacteria. They were studying everything: human history, biology, culture, adaptation patterns. A voice behind them spoke in perfect English. "We wondered when you would find us." The team spun around, weapons raised, to face a Xeraxian unlike any they'd seen. Its crystalline form was more fluid, almost organic. "I am First Scholar Ixal," it said, "and I represent those of us who believe this invasion was a terrible mistake." What followed was a revelation that changed everything. The invasion hadn't been about conquest. It was an experiment gone wrong. The Xeraxian Science Council had identified Earth as unique in the galaxy, a planet where life forms constantly evolved and adapted, where even the dominant species continued to change and grow. "Our species reached perfection millennia ago," Ixal explained. "We stopped evolving, stopped adapting. Some of us recognized this as stagnation, not achievement. We sought to study Earth's adaptive capabilities, but the military caste saw only a primitive world to conquer." The truth struck Diana like a physical blow. They had been fighting only a fraction of Xeraxian society, the warriors who saw their biological adaptability as a weakness to be eliminated rather than a strength to be understood. As bacterial corruption spread through the ship's systems, Ixal's faction made their choice. They would help humanity end this war, and in return, seek to learn from Earth's endless capacity for change and adaptation. The next phase of Operation Thunderstrike would require both humans and their new allies to face the full might of the Xeraxian military caste. But now they understood what they were really fighting for: not just survival, but the very essence of evolution itself. The final battle for Earth began not with an explosion, but with a signal transmitted from Ixal's faction to every Xeraxian ship in orbit. The truth about Earth's evolutionary significance, about the military caste's deception, about the real purpose of their presence here. The Xeraxian fleet fractured. Ships turned against each other as the scholar and military castes clashed. On Earth's surface, Commander Torres coordinated with resistance cells worldwide, targeting key military caste strongholds while protecting scholar caste facilities that surrendered. Dr. Foster and Dr. Patol worked with Xeraxian scientists, combining their knowledge of Earth's bacteria with alien biotechnology. Together, they developed a means to precisely target military caste biology while leaving their allies unharmed. The very adaptability that the military caste feared became their undoing. The mothership, now under joint human-scholar control, became the staging ground for the final push. Lieutenant Walsh and Ixal led a combined force to the military caste's command center. The bacterial corruption had weakened their defenses, but the warrior caste fought with desperate fury. "They still don't understand," Ixal observed as they advanced through the deteriorating corridors. "They see your adaptability as chaos, your evolution as weakness. They cannot comprehend that change is strength. The final confrontation with the military caste's supreme commander was brief but intense. Faced with defeat, they triggered their ship's self-destruct sequence. But they had forgotten something crucial. The ships themselves had been changed by exposure to Earth's bacteria. The crystalline circuits, partially degraded, didn't respond as designed. Victory came not with a surrender ceremony, but with a kind of awakening. As the military caste's power crumbled, the scholar caste shared their true mission: to learn from Earth, to understand how a species could remain strong through constant change rather than rigid perfection. In the months that followed, humanity began a new chapter. The scholar caste offered their technology not as overlords but as partners. Earth's bacteria, which had helped win the war, became the foundation for revolutionary medical and technological breakthroughs. The very adaptability that the military caste had feared became the basis for unprecedented cooperation between species. Commander Torres, standing with Ixil at the New Earth Zeraxian Science Academy, in what was once a resistance bunker, summed it up best. They came expecting to find primitive beings who would flee before superior technology. Instead, they found a species that had never stopped evolving, never stopped adapting, never learned how to quit. In teaching them about change, we remembered something about ourselves. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons, but our endless capacity to adapt and grow. The war had ended, but humanity's journey was just beginning. In facing extinction, they had proven themselves worthy of the stars. And in finding unlikely allies, they had shown that even the most perfect beings could learn to embrace change. Earth's skies, once darkened by invasion, now shimmered with the combined achievements of two civilizations learning from each other. The Zeraxians had come seeking to eliminate a primitive species. Instead, they found teachers who showed them that true perfection lies not in unchanging stability, but in the endless dance of evolution and adaptation. The story of humanity's resistance became legend among the stars, not just for their victory, but for the lesson they taught the galaxy. That strength comes not from achieving perfection, but from never stopping the journey toward it.